Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Do not look now. We are at the end of June with Florida State coming off a 2-10 season in 2024. And Florida State is sitting here in the end of June with a top 10 recruiting class in the country in the 2026 cycle. Now, I get that maybe even some Florida State fans, no doubt some opposing fans would certainly say this. Hey, what's it going to look like as we get into November and December? Does Florida State have the staying power to maintain a top 10 or top 15 class in the country? I get that point of view, especially because this program hasn't been always great in terms of closing classes strong. I get that side of thinking. What about the other side? What about the other side in terms of, hey, Florida State's coming off a 2-10 season. They got a top 10 class in the country right now. What happens if they go out and win 7, 8, 9 football games in 2025? What does the recruiting with this new coaching staff look like in November and December when Florida State shows that this program's back going in the right direction and players are getting better within this Florida State program? So I get the idea that, hey, it's really early in the class or really early in the cycle. We'll see what they kind of finish up in come early December. I also look at it and say, hey, it could even get better at the end of November and December if this Florida State team can show that they're going back in the right direction and this new coaching staff continues to build that momentum in terms of where this program is going. Now, want to talk a little bit more overarching in terms of where Florida State, where more of an evaluation in terms of what Florida State has done up until this point in 2026. Talk about some things we like, talk about some things that we still think we want to see a little bit more of. And then I want to get into some more commitments that we've seen Florida State rack up. I've personally been doing my best to break down these commitments as they've come in. It's hard to keep up with Mike Norvell and the staff right now because these things are flooding in. So we're going to get into some other commitments. I want to highlight some guys that I really like that Florida State has added before we get into it. As always, the Florida State fans, appreciate you guys. More importantly, buckle up. It doesn't sound like Florida State is done building this 2026 cycle out. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. And I want to start with this. One, shout out to coaching staff, right? This new coaching staff, we were looking for two things. No, the first thing was player development. That we won't be able to evaluate until we see this football team in 2025. But the second thing was, hey, what is this team? What is this program? What does this coaching staff look like on the recruiting trail? Where it just felt like the coaching staff prior, even when Florida State had some success on the football field and built some momentum on the football field, it never felt like that old coaching staff parlayed that success on the recruiting trail. It, excuse me, it felt like this coaching staff didn't have any energy on the recruiting trail. Is probably the best way to frame it. This new coaching staff was not put in an ideal position, right? Obviously, taking over, kind of coming into a program that just went 2-10, it's inherently going to be hard to recruit players to Florida State after that season you saw. Rumors about Mike Norvell, how long he's going to last at Florida State. This new coaching staff has come in and really kind of breathed some fresh air and some fire into this program. You have to tip your cap to the new coaching staff. This was something that was really important, right? If Mike Norvell was going to make it work at Florida State, we knew that the new coaching staff that he brought in was going to have to be a coaching staff to get that could really get it going on the recruiting trail for Florida State. That is exactly what they've done. The last thing I'll say, especially over the last 48 hours, this is what it should look like. This is what it should feel like. You see the commitments of Devin Carter flipping from Auburn. Xavier Tiller, battling Auburn and battling Texas A&M, battling a lot of other some programs that have some momentum. That shouldn't be as much of a surprise as I feel like it might be for Florida State fans, because we've seen Florida State historically win those kind of recruiting battles. We just need to see more of it from this new coaching staff going forward, and it's kind of what we're seeing from Florida State in the 2026 cycle. I think they've done a really good job, especially winning some of these recruiting battles that we're not necessarily used to seeing Florida State win over the last couple of cycles. The last thing I'll say here, and this is a little bit more of a criticism, I still want them to do a better job in the state of Florida. And I love what they've done in Georgia. Devin Carter, Xavier Tiller. I think they've done a really good job out of state, but I still look at, hey, if Florida State's going to maximize their success as a talent acquisition program, you can't ignore the state of Florida. Way too much talent in the state to be fishing outside of the state. That's not to say you can't go up into the state of Georgia, because that is a hotbed for Florida State as well. But at the same time, you want to make sure you are having a strong presence all over the state of Florida as well. That is something that, as this coaching staff continues to build relationships in state with not only players but coaches and high school programs, I hope to see that get better over the next couple of cycles. Without further ado, though, let's get into some commitments. I want to start with Xavier Tiller. This kid really do like what Xavier Tiller can be at the tight end position over the next couple of years. Really smooth mover at the tight end position. I feel like sometimes when we're talking about tight ends, we focus too much on size and speed. You want guys that can separate. Want guys who can be dangerous after the catch, and that's what you kind of get the sense Xavier Tiller is now. He can cook. He's a tight end that is certainly a matchup nightmare with that size and speed profile, but I also think he's a really fluid, coordinated mover. The other thing I like about Xavier Tiller is, although there's a ways to go in terms of filling out that frame and putting enough weight on him so he can be a productive inline blocker for Florida State, he's got experience doing it, which you can't say for a lot of these tight ends coming out of high school. Most of these tight ends out of high school are just wide receivers at the high school ranks that need to make the transition to inline tight end play. Xavier Tiller, he's a guy that has plenty of experience playing that traditional tight end role where he's playing a little H-back, lining up in line. He has experience as an inline dude, and I think that's going to help. And as he continues to fill out that frame, I think you feel pretty good about him transitioning to being a quality inline blocker. I think the real value for Xavier Tiller is what he can be as a pass catcher, but I also do see a pathway for him. Like, it's what he can do as a run blocker should not be barring him from getting on the football field, which you say that for a lot of tight ends. There are a lot of tight ends, hey, you're going to be a really good pass catcher, but will they be able to get on the football field if they can't run block? I think Xavier Tiller will be good enough as a run blocker because of that experience at the high school ranks to get on the football field at least relatively early. Maybe not year one, but certainly year 2, year 3. It's hard to find tight ends that can be real dudes in the pass catcher department. I think Xavier Tiller certainly is one, and I think they landed one last year in the 2025 cycle as well. Jakobe Green, another guy that to me, Jakobe Green, blue chipper offensive line. And I know he's not a blue chip in terms of the star ranking, but to me, I look at Jakobe Green and say probably going to be a multi-year starter on the inside. What you would expect, right? 6'3", 335. You just look at the profile. You don't even need to know. You don't even need to look at the film to get a sense of what he's going to be. Ass kicker up front. He's an absolute mauler. Road grader is probably the best term to use for him. Now, here's the thing that I like about Jakobe Green. It's not super sloppy. He's not a guy, yes, he wins because he's overwhelmingly big and powerful, but he's also got some really nice feet. He can climb to the second level. I think he can hold up in pass protection. There are a lot of interior offensive linemen that have the profile of Jakobe Green, 6'3", 335, and it's just a little sloppy, and they need to kind of change the body a little bit. And I think there's some work for Jakobe Green in terms of body composition, but I think he's a really quality athlete for that size. Not going to be a headliner, probably not going to be a top 50 pick in the NFL draft, but gosh darn it, I think he's going to be really solid for Florida State. And quite frankly, Florida State hasn't brought in enough of these guys. I feel like Florida State has leaned so much into athletic profiles on the offensive line position. A guy like Lucas Simmons kind of comes to mind where, look, you bet on Lucas Simmons every day of the week, but you also want to get guys that you feel like are just quality football players too. Go bet on the upside players like Lucas Simmons, but also supplement it with guys like Jakobe Green, who or at least feel very confident about will be multi-year starters for you down the road. Last one, Luke Francis. This is some upside. This is boomer bust. Not really sure what it's going to look like, but it could be really fun. 6'4.5", 335, ton of length. he's listed as an interior offensive lineman. I think he's going to play nose for that Tony White defense. He's a powerful kid. And I'll say this. So the background on Luke Francis, born in London, new to the sport, plays at the NFL Academy. Now he's transferring into Coral Gables, Florida. What I'll say about Luke Francis is you turn on the film and what you expect is like this big body that doesn't know what he's doing on the football field. And yes, he's raw, and there's a lot of development that needs to take place. But at the same time, it's like, it looks like he's been playing football for more than 24 months is probably the best way to put it. This is a kid that's farther along than you would expect at this time. Really excited what it can look like for the next couple of years. Again, not a guy that's going to get on the football field much, in my opinion, over the next couple of years. Year 3, year 4 could blossom into a really nice football player because the trajectory of him as a football player seems to be going in the right direction very quickly. This is a guy that doesn't look out of place on the football field for somebody that's, new to the sport. Like those 3 commitments, there's a nice blend of, hey, Jakobe Green, bona fide guy that you think could be a really quality football player. Xavier Tiller, same thing. Luke Francis, big time upside. That's what it should look like. Some nice balance in terms of the kind of guys you're getting. More to come for Florida State. Wanted to hop on and kind of catch up on some of the commitments that we've missed out on. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.